Morning, everybody. Actually, it's afternoon. It's May 2nd. Going to get in the 70s today. We got our tomato plants in this morning, and now we're going to try to get these giant Marconi peppers in. We're a week early here in Indiana. Our last frost date is Mother's Day, which is Sunday, 7 days from now. But the weather this morning said we were going to have 70s for the rest of the week and 50s at night, and the rain's coming in here after today. So we're going to try to get these in because they're getting a little big in these cups. I've upplanted them 3 times now, so we're going to try to get them in the ground, and I'll show you what I do. I start with our granular tomato and vegetable seed fertilizer. I'll throw about a handful in there, bottom of the hole. And then I'll get a pinch of this bone meal because they're already blooming on the peppers, and this helps with the blooms. And I'll put a little pinch of that in there. And these giant Marconis, any pepper plant likes magnesium, and your Epsom salt is magnesium sulfate. So we'll just go ahead and put a little handful of that down in there. And then these peppers get so big, and they are heavy feeders once they get up and going. So I'll go ahead and add a little bit of lime in here too to help with the calcium there. We just put a little bit in the hole. And I'll take my spade. We'll stir all that in really good. I'll take a handful of mix, or actually the soil that comes out of the hole. And then I'll take a handful of Pro Mix. I'll mix that all in really well. I'll show you these tomato plants. I topped these plants when they were small. And you can see there how they're starting to fork. Actually, we've got 3 of them. And this variety pepper gets really huge. I've had them 5 foot tall in my raised bed planter boxes. So I try to top them because the high winds we have here in Indiana in the spring and early summer, when these plants get growing, they'll outgrow my cages. I actually use tomato cages for them, but I've had them grow past the tomato cage, and the peppers get so huge. I've had them as long as Pepsi 2-liter bottles that they snap the stalks. See there again, we've already upplanted them a couple weeks ago, and they're root down again, if you can see that. So what I'll do is I'll pull that around like that and try to break them roots loose. Set that plant in there. It's got about 3 or 4 inches of soil on top of it before it gets to that fertilizer. Okay. Then we'll just pack the soil that comes out of the hole back in around it. I grow these every year. Some years we have really good years, and last year we had a really bad year with them. So I don't know. We're hoping to have a good year this year with them. And when I plant that plant, I don't plant it any deeper than what it come out of that cup. But my tomatoes, I planted them pretty deep. But pepper plants, you can't do that. What I like to do is, I can find my scissors. I'll come in here and I'll cut these bottom leaves off. We get that mashed down in there pretty good. Kind of cover it over with our grass and leaves. We use leaves and grass as our organic amendments to our soil every year. We don't fertilize our lawn or use pesticides or anything like that. So everything we try to do organically. And then I'll just take one of these tomato cages, and believe it or not, they'll outgrow these cages if you have a good year with them. So there we go. I've had them taller than those cages. What I'll do later on in the season, once they start filling up that cages, I'll pull out my table saw and rip me up some stakes, and I'll put a stake in the ground to hold this cage. Okay, let's do one more. So I'll grab me a pinch of Epsom salt, probably about a tablespoon. Put it in the bottom of that hole. About I don't know, that's a quarter cup, and I'm using about half of that. Put that in there. A little bit of bone meal, because they're already flowering. They've got peppers on them, the pepper flowers, so we'll put a little bit of bone meal in here. And we'll do a little bit of this tomato and vegetable fertilizer. About a handful, not even quite a quarter cup. Okay, stir that in really well. We'll add some more of the soil back in the hole, because we don't want to set that right on that plant, right on that fertilizer. There again, you can see where we cut the top out of that, and now what that does is when you top these plants small is it makes a short bushy plant versus a tall gangly plant. And with the size of these peppers, you kind of need to do that with this variety pepper. You might get away with not topping your pepper plants if you're growing chili plants or some small little pepper, but these things get huge. And you can see they're already starting to get root bound again. So we're going to try to get them in the ground today before the rains come this week. And I just break it apart like that. Might add a little more soil, get it up off there. See what I might do. I'll take that out. Put a little Pro Mix in there with it. Mix all that up real good. That puts a little peat moss and perlite in the hole. Just a little bit. And then we'll just fill the hole back in with our soil to come out. We've been amending this soil for several years, and you can see how dark and rich that soil is. We try to rotate planting. And I compost all my leaves. Sorry about that. Figures I go to make a video, and that's what you get. We'll just pack this soil in around there, but we won't go no deeper than what it was. There you go. Once it's back in, get our tomato cage. Go ahead and do this this now, because if you try to do it later, you end up snapping the branches. Believe me, I've made that mistake. And I'll get my sledgehammer out, my little 2-pound sledge, and I'll tap these down a little deeper. But there you go. That's planting giant Marconis. Top your pepper plants. You'll end up with a couple nice stalks on the top. That keeps them short and stocky to support the weight of those peppers. And I'm going to go ahead and get all of the rest of these in there. We've got 12. And once they take off and they start doing okay, if, Lord willing, they do good this year. Last year they didn't. Tomatoes didn't either with all the rain we had. It had a bad year last year for gardening. So I'll keep you posted and updated. And thanks for watching.